Hello and welcome to another bespoke unit champagne review. In this video we shall be evaluating Perrier-Jouët Grand Brut. So I've been looking forward to reviewing Perrier-Jouët Grand Brut for quite some time. The reason is not only because it was featured in the number 2 position of our best champagnes under $50, you'll see a suggestion right here so you can watch that, but also because of these glasses. Now you may have noticed in my other videos that I always use the same glasses. Now it's not just because of their style, which I absolutely adore and I'll tell you about in a second, but it's because of their shape. These are not flutes. Flutes are very narrow and flutes are often used because they retain the bubbles for longer. However, the problem is with champagne flutes is they're so narrow and straight that any aromas that do gather in the top just wash away. Now you won't see me drinking out of a coupe either, or coupe, sorry, because these are just so wide that you lose the fizz straight away. They're also quite top heavy and it's just easy to knock them over and spill your precious champagne. Now there's no use crying over spilled champagne, but it's best to avoid it in the first place. These tulips are the perfect compromise between the two. In fact, you'll see a lot of Michelin star restaurants or sommelier use white wine glasses because some people argue that these are even better. But I like the tulip because you have the narrowness of a flute, which means you retain the effervescence and the bubbles just don't all go away. But you also have this wide bowl shape which lets you have the aromas gather in the top half, which is known as the bouquet. This means that you enjoy your champagne a lot more because of the aromas that you smell as you drink. So I was going to tell you about these glasses, but let's start with Perrier-Jouët's history. Founded in 1811 by newlyweds Pierre-Nicolas Perrier and Rose Adélaide Jouët, it went on to eventually sell more than 3 million bottles per year. However, it is mostly associated with its popularity during the late 19th century Belle Époque in Paris. Here the champagne was flowing and times were good. It was a period of culture, philosophy, intellectualism. You had the enfants terribles such as Rimbaud that were just going absolutely wild in Montmartre, but also down in Montparnasse. So the late 19th century Belle Époque era was more or less symbolized by an increase of art movement, intellectualism, style and culture through industrialization and internationalization. There were philosophers, there were artists, all gathering together in various known famous cafes in Montmartre and Montparnasse. Paris was really seen as kind of the center of the world in terms of culture and art. Now, times may have changed, but Perrier-Jouët at the turn of the 20th century wished to really capture this essence and the style of Art Nouveau movement by hiring the prevalent artist at the time, Émile Gallé, to design a very floral label with these flowers, these Japanese anemones. So this more or less captures the essence of Perrier-Jouët as what has made them so famous and really popularized them. But the style has prevailed, and although it's something that you'll only find really in the luxurious premium vintage bottles and cuvées, you can also get it on these glasses. So I absolutely love it. I'm absolutely fascinated by the late 19th century and early 20th century Art Nouveau and the Art Deco period that came after it. So I absolutely love these glasses. But that's enough history, and let's get down to the real deal and let's try this out. So let's get into this bottle of champagne and let's open it properly. I've already taken the foil off, but and you may have already seen this in a couple of videos in the past, but we'll start by doing it properly as we do in every video, and I'll quickly explain and walk you through it. If not, you can skip right ahead. So first thing we have to do is undo the wire cage. Not take it off, just undo it. With 6 counterclockwise half turns, the muselet, or the wire cage, that was 6, will come undone. You leave it on, you don't take it off, and then you put a cloth over it. You take a firm grip of the wire cage. You could do it with just the cork, but it's actually much easier with a wire cage still on it. Then with a firm grasp at the bottom of the bottle, you turn back and forth ever so slightly, but you don't turn the cork, you turn the bottle. and we turn and we resist and we stop the bottle from popping. You don't want it to pop, you want a small burst of effervescence. So right now I'm really pushing quite hard on the cork, stopping it from popping. And I'm also holding it at 45 degrees. The reason is that pressure will go against gravity, it'll go up. So by turning it, the pressure is going to go up against the bottle and not out the top. And so we're getting there, ever so slightly. And that was perfect. And one other minor detail is you never let the champagne bottle touch the glass. You just want it to hover over so you can put some champagne in. The reason is that champagne is often stored in dusty old cellars and it's just not very pleasant. Other than that, there's no reason behind it. So let's begin by checking out the robe. We're going to look at the champagne and we're going to admire its robe. So using a white wall or the back of my bespoke unit champagne sheet, we are going to take a look at the perlage. So the first thing I see that this is a very clear, very clear champagne. It's almost white in the first third at the bottom, and in white I mean transparent, and it's a very clear straw colour. This is much lighter than I expected. In fact, it's very light, very delicate. One thing to keep in mind as well is that Perrier-Jouët is 40% Pinot Noir, Perrier-Jouët Grand Brut is 40% Pinot Noir, 40% Pinot Meunier, and only 20% Chardonnay. Chardonnay being the white grape out of the other two. So we can expect something to be not very minerally, but quite fruit forward. I would have expected it to be a little darker than this. So that's the robe, and we're also going to have a look at the bubbles. We're not going to count the number of bubbles, but we're just going to check out that effervescence and see how it's flowing towards the top. I can see that there is a huge bubble production, which means that it's very high in carbon dioxide. And I can see that these bubbles are very small, very refined. So we're going to take this off on the champagne sheet. So here we're looking at a quite a pale, very clear, with very refined bubbles and very lively ones too. I didn't mention it earlier in this video, normally I do. This is the bespoke unit champagne sheet. You can download this off a link below so you can review your own champagne at home. We're going to use this, I'm going to do it with you by hand, and then we're going to digitize it for the written review of this champagne. So before we get straight to tasting, the next thing we're going to do is check out the nose and bouquet, and we're going to give this a nice whiff. So what you want to do is, well, you don't need to start by swirling your glass. This is only necessary with still wine because it doesn't oxidize as fast. But because of the effervescence, all these bubbles, they carry the aromas to the top that pop and leave a nice bouquet at the top of the glass. So that's a wonderful thing about champagne. It means it's always evolving, there's always changes, and it's a lot more, it's a lot quicker, you could say, than red wine that has to take hours of decantering. So when you bring the glass to your nose, you don't want to smell it here at the surface, but you want to stick your nose in and get a real smell of what's going on. So this is a very intense wine. It's got a lot going on, it's quite complex. Feeling a diverse range of notes, which seem to be quite vivid as well. I can really start to pick them out. So I'm going to do what's the first nose, which is sort of the initial notes you're getting, and then after that I'm going to do a second nose, which is sort of the more obscure, hidden character notes as well. So the first thing I can pick out, which I'm really starting to love and very excited to try this, are overt notes of cherry, which seem to be together with a bit of plum, with a nice sort of yeasty brioche finish, sort of like a sweet bread pastry. I'm really persisting there and trying to get some more out of it. I can pick out a couple of maybe some aromatic herbs, a little bit of earth, and the strangest thing is mushrooms, which may sound a bit odd to have in a wine. Mold, that's awful. Remember, this is fermented, but mushrooms in a good way, like truffles. So we open on a burst of cherry, and we have the plum again that was tasted in the nose with a little bit of lemon rind. It's a bit zesty, but we're not light zesty, not like lemon or bergamot, but like really quite zesty, quite tart and dry and acidic. So it's more like the rind, the skin of a lemon. And then after that it goes quite sweet but green at the same time, so that's it. So it's like red apples, grapefruit. Yeah, it's quite bitter. There's a sort of this bittersweet flavour to it, and honey. I'm just going to let this sit around before I get the finish, because I want to be absolutely sure. I'm just going to see how long this flavour takes, but so far it's quite long and I'm quite impressed. But let's go from start to finish on the champagne sheet. So we're looking at a very rich flavour, which is quite dry, probably one of the driest in our videos so far, except for the Baron Albert Symbolique, the Brut Nature. Excuse me, the Brut Nature that we tried back in December 2017. There's a video right here suggesting to watch it. I suggest you do, but let's finish this first. Very, very yeasty as well. Like the brioche is very, very powerful in a good way, which goes quite nicely with the dryness. It's velvety, and it tastes quite mature, but not that much. I mean, this is a non-vintage from a big company, so they're churning out champagne, but they're always going to respect the rules. So I'm starting to get this sort of aftertaste in, I'm starting to get the finish. I think I'm sort of more or less sussed it out. And we're looking here at brioche, as I mentioned earlier, chalky, minerally, which I said earlier that I didn't really expect, so it looks like I was very much mistaken. And this sort of, it's not limestone, it's not from the pinot noir, pinot meunier, which tend to be quite limestoney. It's actually from the Chardonnay, so we've got this sort of chalkiness, because the regions that grow Chardonnay are quite known for their chalk. Let's take a look at the overall experience of drinking Perrier-Jouët. First things first is the label. I absolutely adore the labels from Perrier-Jouët. I love that they've stuck to the style from the late 19th and early 20th century. This sort of Émile Gallé style art is everywhere. It's their brand identity, and they're completely 100% loyal to it. There are a lot of brands that try to modernize themselves, try to go for something new. They try to sort of rebrand themselves to bring them into the 21st century. But the wonderful thing about champagne is that it is out of time completely, or it represents a particular period. You have hundreds of years of history of which a champagne or house has suddenly become popular, it's suddenly set itself apart and has its own identity thanks to that. And I love how Perrier-Jouët have stayed 100% loyal to that, and they haven't changed too much. Of course, this is slightly modernized to bring it with the time, but the velvety touch of the label, it sort of breathes a quality above, and the lovely text as well, and the anemones on all the labels as well. It's just fantastic. So as you can see, I'm singing its praises, so that's going to get marked quite highly, but then again it's only out of 2 because we really want to talk about what's inside, but yet mention the presentation as well. For the plaque's nice on both sides. We have on the outside we have PJ in the same font as here, and on the inside it says Perrier-Jouët Grand Brut, in case you hadn't already noticed. I find the cap actually, well, I've got the one from, well, I did have it there earlier, but I had, we had Veuve Clicquot earlier. I've had a few from Baron Albert, Mum, many different champagnes, and to be honest, I mean, this is nice, but I think that they could have done something a little bit more original, maybe an anemone on the top or at the bottom, something a little bit more panache. In terms of the cork quality, this looks like it's been aged in the cork for quite a while. It's blackened with streaks on the side, which means that wherever it was stored, it had suffered a heat spike at one point, but fortunately it doesn't seem to have dried out. The flavour hasn't been tainted, I can tell. It tastes absolutely fine, but I think that it's... Personally, I'm not someone who's a big fan of aging champagne in cork. I've had some that have been aged in a cork and they taste wonderful because of the way they mature. But for a non-vintage like this, I feel that it's ready to drink when the house says it's ready, and so it shouldn't be left in the cork too long. If you want to learn more about how champagne is made, just head to bespokeunit.com/champagne and you'll be able to learn everything about the aging and maturation process and what I'm talking about. With regards to the occasion, as you know, as I mentioned earlier in this video, Perrier-Jouët Grand Brut was featured at the #2 spot of our best champagnes under $50 as what we called the party animal. The reason for this is it's a festive and celebratory champagne with its grandiose style and sort of light-hearted, party, festive vibe. So this kind of more or less summarizes what I want to say, but at the same time, Perrier-Jouët is something that you can have on more formal, more serious events. You could have it at very cultured events, at galas, at weddings, absolutely. However, I'd say this is something that you would reserve more for a special occasion. It's not like a Mouette Chandon or a Canard du Chêne or a GH Mum or even a Veuve Clicquot that you could probably whip out among friends and enjoy it as a special treat. Perrier-Jouët, it has an aura about it that demands that it is an occasion and it should be celebrated. That said, at the same time, I like to go by the wise words of Lily Bollinger, and you know, I never trifle with it unless I'm thirsty. So, you know, you can drink this whenever you fancy, but what I'm trying to say is that maybe it's something that's best reserved for more celebratory occasions. So the next topic is the value for money. Living in France, I got this for around, I think it was 35 euros, 35 to 40 euros, somewhere in that bracket. In the United States, I did a little bit of research and it sort of oscillates between $45 to $57 US. The price increase is normal. You can expect something anywhere from 30% to 50% price increase when wine or champagne is exported to the United States. So this isn't anything to be shocked about. There are a lot of duties, taxation, and of course the traveling costs for champagne, which requires special care. The cheapest I found it at was $45, which I think is a very reasonable price. It sticks it squarely under the $50 mark, and you can find a link below to 2 trusted retailers that offer it at around this price. So before we close this off, let's talk about the pairings. So being a very fruit-forward, very deep, very chalky champagne, this is going to be a difficult one to pair. So this is something that you probably couldn't pair with desserts. Maybe lemon meringue at a real push, or a very tart fruit tart, a very dry, very acidic fruit tart, because of the lemon rind, and the grapefruit. But otherwise, I think it would be too difficult to pair with that. I think you should concentrate more on very salty, very characterful meals. Caviar, foie gras, maybe not. Foie gras tends to do better with sweeter wines. Sweeter wines. So melons, no, not either. But oysters, caviar are all excellent. Antipasto, so like cured meat. Cured meat is also excellent. Pâté, so you can't have foie gras. Well, you can have foie gras, of course you can have foie gras, I'm not stopping you. I wouldn't have it with foie gras, but I would have it with a sort of peasant pâté de campagne, so like countryside rustic pâté. I would be tempted to have it with A barbecue grilled meat is fantastic with this kind of champagne. Curry would be super. Noodles, not so sure. Yes, probably, why not? But pasta, yes, like a spaghetti bolognese, or a sort of classic, quite well-sourced pasta would be great. Pizza, red meat, actually this could probably do red meat justice. Shellfish, spicy foods, white meat. For cheese, you could probably try this with blue cheese. It would probably be quite nice, actually. Blue cheese and champagne have a love-hate relationship, unless the blue cheese is particularly unless the champagne is particularly strong and has a lot of character, it tends to lose its fight against blue cheese, and it doesn't create an accord, but it just sort of drowns out the flavour. But otherwise, like a Schaus or a soft cheese, like a Brie, like a proper mature Brie, one that's quite liquidy, that'd be great. A hard cheese like a Cantal would be fantastic, or Comté, like really old mature Comté. And then there's goat's cheese and used cheese. I think they would all be excellent candidates as well. In terms of aperitif, this would be an excellent champagne to have with your appetizers. So breadsticks, french fries, nuts, olives would be very nice. In fact, I think I'm going to have some olives while I drink this, while I write the full written review, but that is after the camera has stopped rolling. Popcorn, potato chips, and tapenade. Tapenade would actually also be very nice, and it's kind of giving me a bit of a craving. For tobacco, as you know, we're quite fond of our cigars, of course enjoy them responsibly, but if you're, for example, a cigarette smoker and you're very French and you like to sit on the terrace and smoke and drink, this would be great. It would be a very nice pairing, and it's actually giving me a bit of a craving as well as an ex-cigarette smoker. But as a cigar smoker, current cigar smoker, I think this would pair quite nicely with a medium or mild-bodied cigar. Full-bodied, I wouldn't risk it. It might kill the flavour of the champagne, but a medium-bodied one, like for example the Gurkha Typhoon, which we reviewed a couple of weeks ago, that would go very nicely with this, because I experienced when I tried it with the Veuve Clicquot, they really brought the citrus flavour out, and because Veuve Clicquot yellow label was less on the citrus, because this is quite high on the citrus, I think we would get something quite acidic, quite tart, and very scrumptious indeed. With regards finally to the serving temperature with Perrier-Jouët Grand Brut, now you can enjoy this at around 8 degrees, which is around 46, 47 degrees Fahrenheit, but I would recommend that you have it actually at 10 degrees Celsius, which is 50 degrees Fahrenheit, because then when it's slightly warmer, not too warm but slightly warmer, you have all the character that reveals itself. It's much more interesting. At the beginning of this video you probably noticed a bit of condensation on the bottle because I had it at around 5 degrees because I knew I was going to be talking a lot, but I let it warm up throughout this video and it went from 8 degrees and it's now at around high 10s, low 11s. And it's still quite enjoyable, and I'm starting to discover something a little bit different each time. For example, the cherry and the plums seem to be heavier now, the red fruits seem to be heavier now compared to earlier where it was slightly more citrus. So that's the great thing about champagne, is you can try at different temperatures and learn something new. Not too cold because it would be too flat, but not too warm either because then it would be really alcohol heavy and it would just kill all the subtlety in the aromas. There you have it, Perrier Grand Brut. Like I said, I've been looking forward to reviewing this one for quite a while and I am not disappointed. I really enjoyed its overt red fruit, cherry, plum accords with a bit of lemon rind and the wonderful heart of grapefruit, honey and apples. As at $45 or thereabouts, it's actually a really good bargain for what it offers you, and on top of that, bringing out something with a label like this that's been so thoughtfully and carefully designed is a real pleasure and a real treat to yourself. My name's Charles Philippe and that's all from me today. I really enjoyed doing this video. Like I said, I was very excited to try out Perrier-Jouët and I'm very happy that I did so. I'm really looking forward to doing the written review, which you can see now in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this and you look forward to more. And please comment down below and tell us if you had any experiences with Perrier-Jouët, how it differs, how they were similar, what you think of this champagne, and whether you just have any questions or want to say hi. And finally, don't forget to look below in the description and you'll see that we have Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, on which we're all very active, as well as bespokeunit.com, where you can learn all about men's lifestyle. Again, I'm Charles Philippe. Take care. Cheers.